The fans are here at St. Vincent College. Football is back after the day off. The Steelers wrapped up 6 straight days of practices. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Training Camp Live, presented by FedEx. I'm Missi Matthews with Max Starks. And Max, the pads are back on. I hope everybody got to enjoy the day off in terms of the players and the coaches, but it is a game week. It's just the preseason, but you can tell from hearing some of the players today prior to lunch that they're excited to hit someone else.
It is going to be really nice to think about the fact that we get to travel, go down to Tampa. I know there's a lot of feeling there for Mike Tomlin. I can't wait because obviously I have some good memories in that stadium. Might have played in that stadium a time or two in my day. But to hit someone new is such a refreshing feeling when you've been hitting your own teammates. And today there's going to be a little bit more live action today in practice. We're going to get more game-like situational football, which I think is going to be a very nice welcome change. This will probably be the last padded one before the game on Friday. And the guys had a day off. You had a chance to refuel. Guys, I saw them yesterday making sure they took care of their bodies, got ready. Masseuses came in, and we're making sure guys were feeling good. So it's going to be, I think, a very spirited practice today for Mike Tomlin. Last real kind of hitting physical day before we get to Tampa, and I'm here for it. I'm here for all of it.
Well, and it's crazy when you think about it. Training camp is more than halfway over. That was the 6-day stretch, probably the worst of the whole camp in terms of not having enough time off, especially doing the Friday night lights in pads, Saturday in pads once again. Sunday they didn't have pads on, but getting that day off today, and like you said, knowing that you're getting ready for a game, and before you know it, next week you'll be breaking camp and playing another game and getting to go to Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah, it's now at the tail end. So if you're talking about, hey, we made it through the front 9, if we're talking golf terms, we're now in the back 9. We're winding down camp here. Your most physical days are behind you from a team competitive standpoint. But for Mike Tomlin, this is also something where you have to be screwed in for the details, not only for these padded days, but for the non-padded days. He's watching, and everybody's judging. The scouts and the front office are watching how you move on those days when it's not a physical performance. They want to see the mental aspect, the toughness aspect. Can you grind through some of the more mundane details of training camp? And can you, as Coach Tomlin said, can you make the routine plays routinely?
Well, I love that you brought that up on Sunday following the practice that wasn't in pads before the off day. He said that one of the major coaching points was attire cannot dictate approach or attitude or professionalism.
No, it cannot. And I think that's what he's looking for. That's the nuanced side of this, because it's one thing to go out there and put it all together from a physical standpoint. That's one part of the equation. But how you handle the mental preparation, how you handle the distractions and all of the setbacks as far as physically, if you have an injury, it's are you injured or are you hurt? Those are the two things that you're always asking yourself. If you're injured, you need to get out. But if you're hurt, walk it off and come back in ready, prepared to play. I know that, guys get nicked and bruised. That's just what camp is, especially with that quote-unquote short turnaround. Because Wolf and I were laughing about it. We were saying, short turnaround, they practice Friday night and then practice the next day till Saturday afternoon. I was like, how about in the same day going pads in the morning, pads in the afternoon? That's a short turnaround, but it's a new day. Athletes are treated differently. There's a new CBA in town, and that is probably the worst turn for these players in camp. And how you respond, how you recover, and how you come back with a new added invigoration to go out to practice and do the same things over and over again says a lot. Who falls in love with the process at this moment as you try and get down? Because now the rule is you have 90 all the way through. There's no first cut, second cut, final cut. It's one cut. It's like a tailor, right? You measure twice, cut once. You'll measure 3 times because you'll get 3 game opportunities, and then the final cuts will be here. So these young people out here get an opportunity to really hone their craft, and they get a lot of cracks at the apple, which is a very nice thing that doesn't happen in the past. So you want to make sure guys are as fresh as possible.
All right, well, speaking of the preseason, we want to tell you about the Yinz Chat Preseason Challenge. If you don't know about Yinz Chat, make sure you find out about it. This is a great way to test your knowledge, and they have you can help answer Steelers trivia and game day picks. Here's the one you can answer now. What year was the first preseason game between the Steelers and Tampa Bay? Go and answer that on the Steelers mobile app for a chance to win a signed Broderick Jones jersey. Make sure you go play. Want to take a crack at?
Ooh, I have the answer. I want a Broderick Jones autographed jersey. No, just joking. But, I'm going to go something like kooky and crazy, all right? So Tampa Bay was not an original NFL team. They were an AFL team. I'm going to go something crazy like 1977.
It was later than that.
85.
Yes.
Wow. There we go. This took 2 tries.
All right, Max is giving you the answer. Now you can go on the mobile app Play-Ins chat and have a chance to win.
Yeah.
Not a bad jersey to get.
Not a bad jersey at all. Hopefully it fits the bigger guys. I mean, if you do win it and you do don it at practice, just let me know so I can just touch it, just to know that I helped you in your course to greatness and getting a tremendous number in 77. That was my number in college and high school, so I have an affinity for that number. So it's going to be cool.
All right, and just a quick update on some injuries, the bumps and bruises that Max was talking about throughout training camp. We'll keep our eye when we're able to take you down to field level. Trey Norwood has been dealing with a lower leg injury. Keanu Neal and also DeMonte KZ have been missing some time at that safety position. Nick Herbig with a hip flexor. Joey Porter Jr. missed some time on Sunday with an ankle. And Nate Herbig is dealing with a hand injury. So because there was another injury to Jamarcus Bradley, there was a roster move made today by the Steelers. He was placed on IR, waived injured, and they also had a corresponding move adding a safety, which makes sense given the list of names that I just went through.
Yeah.
Jalen Elliott, who played at Notre Dame.
Yeah, and this is that time of year. There's going to be a lot of turnover and guys who aren't supposed to play in the game that are that brings an opportunity for younger guys to come in. So Jalen Elliott, better drink some Gatorade, bud, and get ready because you're probably going to get in that game in that second half. Because I see that there's a list, and we'll go through the depth chart in a little bit. But there's some names that we know are not going to play in this game. I mean, that's just the new era of the NFL. Starters do not play in most of the preseason. I mean, we'll probably see ours for a little bit, but in this first game, I expect not to see a bulk of our known starters playing in the contest. So a lot of young guys are going to get reps as they progress through 4 quarters of football.
Before we do jump into that depth chart, Kenny Pickett, what do you do with him his second year in the NFL, first time as the full-time starter, knowing that at this time last year he was number 3, so he played a lot of preseason?
Yes, he did. I think you still have to play him because he is that young. He's in his second year, and there is an offensive line battle going on. So how do you assess how good a guy can be unless you have the starting QB back there and you have that stress and that pressure and that anxiety behind you? So I would expect to see him no more than maybe a series, maybe 2 as a young guy, but that'll give plenty of opportunity for that competition at left tackle between Dan Moore and Broderick Jones. And then also some of the guys who are trying to swing around on this team at the right tackle, at the center position. I expect Kendrick Green to get a lot of reps, not just at center. But he'll get.
We know what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get some different type of reps. So I think you're going to see a lot of movement along the offensive line this game. So I think Kenny in there for 1 or 2 series isn't going to hurt anything.
Well, speaking of Kendrick Green, did you see that Patrick Ricard of the Ravens came off the PUP list and he's been working exclusively with the offensive line?
Yes, I did see that, and
we talked about him so much last week when we talked about Kendrick Green and what we saw him doing.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, he's had enough reps at the running back, H-back position that it's not unlikely that he's probably getting some work with the offensive line because a lot of his skills are blocking. So if you go in the offensive line room, whether you're in motion or whether you're stationary, he's blocking on the wing. He's blocking at a tight end position. He moves the fullback to run the lead ISO. So a lot of those principles can be learned and practically applied from offensive line play. So I don't see anything of worthy to say, oh, my God, Patrick Carr's out as a fullback because the guy's had a lot of success. And that Ravens team, even with Todd Monken, is still going to try and run the football and establish a run. And when you have – 300-pound twinkle toes back there, it makes things a lot easier when you're trying to get plays running, create holes for the running backs.
All right, as you mentioned, we are going to take a look at the Steelers' depth chart that was released just over the weekend. And out of respect to you, we're going to start offense, and we're going to start with the offensive line. I just feel like it's the right thing to do.
I appreciate that.
Now, we should preface, Coach Tomlin only fills these things out because he is mandated to do it so many days before the preseason game. And it could change next week as they head into the one at home, and the week after we will see. I think the one that really matters is the one that is done before week 1.
Absolutely. That's the one that matters, and that's the one that Mike Tomlin will actually take some time to do, as opposed to saying, "All right, what's the list? Show me your guys." All right, good. Let's just put it on paper. I mean, that's essentially what it comes down. This is exactly what we've seen from camp so far. The one name that is not on here, and in our graphics department, Spencer Anderson.
Your guy.
You left him off the list. I know he's like fourth
He was
deep at the
yep.
center position, but he's played left tackle, right tackle, guard. You could have slotted him in behind Broderick Jones. It wouldn't hurt anything, just to get his name on the page at least.
You like him, don't you?
I really like him. I really like this kid. He gives me Young Beach vibes, which is young Kelvin Beachum when he came in as a young low-round draft pick in the 7th round. Spencer possesses a lot of the similar traits, meaning mentality, toughness, versatility, and let's face it, he's a very smart kid. The kid has his master's. He's got more degrees than me right now. And he's out there. And I think you can't overlook that. You can't overstate that importance. A guy who stayed in school, motivated a lot of guys around him. But football just comes smoothly. It doesn't look rushed. It doesn't look hurried and frenzied like a lot of guys. He moves between those positions, and he understands it. I'm going to have a tough day, but he doesn't let the bad play previously affect the current play or his future play, which is something you have to have. I always call it having short-term amnesia as an offensive lineman when it comes to bad plays. You can't remember them. You could dwell on them on Monday, but don't think about it while you're playing Sunday.
There you see them warming up here at St. Vincent College. Spencer Anderson, number 74. And do you and Wolf get a chance to talk to these guys a lot? I know they're busy. They're in meetings. They're going to practices and walkthroughs. But being on campus and knowing just your love for that position, do you guys get to start building those relationships?
So since COVID, it's kind of changed it a little bit to where we don't get as much time to really interface. And I think guys tend to stay to themselves a lot. But I've kind of forced the issue on a couple of guys.
I like that.
Yeah, after practice, if I'm down on the field, I'll just stare at them incessantly while they're doing their post-practice work.
You give them the dad look.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're going to talk to me at some point. I don't care. You're going to speak to me. We're going to have a conversation. I'm going to look you in the eyes, and I'm going to have a conversation with you. So I did that with Broderick Jones. He was working with Dan Moore. So Danny, of course, came over immediately. But that's how I got my first chance to really talk to Broderick Jones. And the other guys, I see them in the lunchroom and cafeteria. We nod, we say hello, but we don't have those in-depth conversations. I've had that more in-depth type of conversation with Broderick and Dan on the field. But the other guys, they kind of stick to themselves, which I don't mind because I get it. When you're going through camp, it's like, who is this old guy? He played here when, and I get it. It's a different day and age. I mean, for me, like when Tunch and Wolf were on campus or at the facility, I was in their ear. I was talking to them. I was getting their thoughts. I wanted that, but today's NFL players, they don't really get that same thing, and I have no clue why Kevin Dotson has on those shades.
I like that the camera zoomed in.
They're
just warming up, but yeah, there's something a little different going on. I mean, I get it. It's bright out today. I need the sunglasses too. So
I mean, he's cooling. He's really cooling.
He's bringing the swag on a Tuesday. I think what day it was.
On a Tuesday, exactly. But for that group, it's a very well-knit. One thing I do love about that offensive line, they stick together at all times. Like when you see them in the cafeteria, all together. When you see them walking, always with the buddy system. They're always around each other, and that's really important because that position, unlike a lot of other positions, the chemistry that you must have, the innate second nature you must have to be able to communicate without communicating. That nonverbal communication is key, and it's only built through time. Like I got to spend time with you to get to know you, get to know your little idiosyncrasies so that we can make sure that we work together on game day. So that if I'm calling a play, if the play is called and we got a call, and that the defense is reading every word that comes out of your mouth.
Right.
So sometimes it's just a look. It's got to look at you, wink, nod, grunts, right? All of that could then be used later for communication, but it starts with spending time together. I got to know your mama and your daddy's name. I got to know where you come from. I got to know what your hobbies are. I need to know all that so that we can have that communication. Because Chris Kimiatu and I'll never forget, first time working on the left side together, he was left guard, I was left tackle, and Juice looked at me. He's like, Max, I need you to tell me every time we play, I need you to tell me what to do. He's like, cuss, cuss, cuss. Come on, what's the play call? So I'm like, Juice, I can't say it. The defensive lineman is staring at my mouth.
Trying to lip read.
Yeah, so then we would go into the huddle. It's like, okay, hey, Juice, Sugar's going to be the call for whatever we got to do together, right? And then, if it was on 3, tres, trois. You have to use all these other things to get to 3, and then, like, you hope the other guy was not in French class or Spanish class. But you find these little type of things to create the dialogue without giving away anything, but that takes time. And Juice and I had a lot of long conversations, spent a lot of time together to get to that point. And that's what I'm happy to see with this group, that they're putting the time in. They might not be talking to me, the old guy,
You're not old, Max.
Well, in their eyes, I am.
Fair.
In their eyes, I'm twice their age. So I'm old, even though we know I'm not old in the grand scheme of things. And, I always have Wolf next to me, so I'm never really old.
Wolf's not here to defend himself, so you could say that.
He could do it on the post show if he hears about it, but I'm not going to tell him.
Now, in terms of the offensive line, what are the coaches going to be looking for on Friday in Tampa, knowing there's no real game planning going on, but it is against a different team, and not just that left tackle position, but the guys behind, the depth, where do they rank and where are they going to fall?
Well, I think it really comes down to consistency of play, right? How does your technique look on tape? Do you get the job done? That's going to be first and foremost. Secondly, do you know what to do so that you can do and show us what you can do? And that's the other thing. How do you communicate pre-snap? How do you guys fit up on double team blocks? How do you disseminate information along the line? And then, of course, the third thing is it comes down to your play. Getting to whip or not to whip, that is the question. And we're talking about butts in this situation. You've got to whip the guy in front of you. If you can't whip the guy in front of you, then we have no further conversation. I don't care how much you know. I don't care if you can spit back the entire playbook to me photographically, and you can write it down and transcribe it in 17 different languages. If you can't go out there and do it, it doesn't matter. So it really comes down to technique, execution, and communication are the 3 facets that every offensive line coach is grading everybody behind those starters. And, of course, when you have a starting battle like you do at the left tackle position, it's really going to come down to all 3 of those things and who makes it look better, who makes it look easier. If you're struggling to stay on even though you get the job done, that's not going to look, now it goes into more of the college football playoff-esque type of aspect. How you do it matters for where we put you in the ranking system.
Now, as an offensive lineman, when you hear goal line is on tap for the day, what are your first thoughts?
Pancakes. Goal line is truly an immovable object going against an unstoppable force. Who wins in that situation? And that's what you're out there to prove. We know what it is. You got 1 yard for glory and 1 play at a time. Who is going to win? To push or be pushed, right? This is the moment when you always hear Mike Tomlin talking about pressure only goes 2 ways, right? Those who feel it and those who apply it. This is the essence of that. This is an opportunity to not be denied or to be the denier. And for offense, you're always going with the I'm not going to be denied, the undeniable force. And then as a defense, hold your ground, right? Hold the line. Do not let there be a crack in the line like a Spartan in a phalanx, right? You can't break the shield wall. And that's what you're trying to see in a very tough, physical, forceful way. RC, my dog, he is there right next to Coach T.
Camera's always spotting the former players. I love it to know. Maybe he's filming his podcast or something here. Maybe he's just visiting.
I'm sure there's a pivot episode coming.
Well, hey, he had Mike Tomlin and Kenny Pickett not too long ago, so
exactly.
He's gotten some good ones from here.
So who is he going to get next? Maybe he gets George Pickens this time.
Ooh, I'd watch that.
Yeah, that'd be a good one to get. That'd be a good young guy. I wonder where his other 2 cronies are. My former Florida Gators there, Channing Crowder and Fred Taylor. Love both those guys. So, but it's awesome to see. I mean, that's the other thing that makes the Steelers so unique, right, Missy? I mean, the veterans, the legends, the former players are all welcome here. I mean, when you think about where we're at in camp, how many guys have we seen so far?
Oh, new faces every day.
Every
and multiples
day.
Sometimes.
Yeah, multiples. I mean, Matt Spaeth was here the first day to now Ryan Clark here. Jeremy Tooman was in the scouting staff. You have Merrill and Ike walking around here at all times. But
you and Wolf?
Yeah, me and Wolf. I mean, Hokie, bro, was here. Aaron Smith obviously getting honored for the Hall of Honor, but then came back another day.
Sean Sweezum, I saw.
Sweesham was here. Vince Williams was here. Rocky Blyer.
Ryan Shazier.
Shazier has been here a couple of times. So, I mean, it's just awesome when you see that, to know that guys are welcome. That, hey, all you have to do is give a day's notice. Hey, coach, I'm coming in. What you got for me? Or, hey, call Aiden. Hey, I need to get to practice. Boom, we got you. I mean, so it's just it's that familial aspect in a very business-like atmosphere that separates the Steelers from a lot of other organizations.
All right, let's continue with the depth chart now. We've gone over the offensive line. Let's stick with offense and talk about the skill players and take a look at where those, as we said, the quarterback position so different than this time a year ago. Kenny Pickett, we knew was QB1 heading into this offseason. The OTAs, the minicamp, Mitch Trubisky knows his role as the backup, and then, of course, Mason Rudolph. And here's the list of the other guys. And as you said, nothing terribly surprising at all.
Nothing really surprising. I think seeing George Pickens now as wide receiver 1, whereas a year ago Chase Claypool was in that slotted position. Right. It's going to be a very interesting competition at the top and the bottom of that list in the second group. Miles Boykin, Hakeem Butler, both have very similar body types, both quote-unquote gunning for the same position as Gunner.
Gunner, yeah,
so,
there you go.
You know,
but not Gunner Olszewski.
But not Gunner
right.
Olszewski, because Gunner is not a gunner, he's a returner. Right. So a lot of guns in this conversation, but Gunner is in about the same spot he is in that, because that's second wide receiver, second from the bottom. That's the slot guys, because your two exteriors, your X and your Z, Deontay and George, and then of course Miles and Hakeem, very similar body types, and then of course Cody White, who's actually been having a very sneaky good camp. He has showed up every day in practice, so I have to imagine Cody is slotted as third. But whoever doesn't win that Miles Boykin, Hakeem Butler fight, I think Cody slides to that second string guy. Then, of course, at slot, that's the most hotly contested position. Bringing in Allen Robin the second, and then also having Calvin Austin the third and Gunnar Olszewski. Who is going to take that slot position? Because we've seen speed with Calvin. We've seen the technical prowess with Allen. And then Gunnar is just – he's a water bug, man. He is just all over. I mean, a wiggle worm. You never know what Gunner's going to do, and he just pops free randomly. So we know he has a role on this team with his core 4 special teams experience.
We were talking about Gunnar Olszewski and Calvin Austin III in terms of special teams. Calvin Austin is listed as the returner first. Again, just in this first depth chart as we're going, I am sure Danny Smith wants to see
initial depth chart.
Multiple guys get a chance at returning.
A lot of stars, a lot of asterisks. But all written in pencil with a very nice eraser, this depth chart.
I never have a good eraser.
Yeah, no. It's like we both take the golf approach. We'll just scratch it out and just write something next to it.
There you go.
But Coach Tom, I feel like, has like one of those, those jumbo erasers that's just separate from the pencil, the big pink one. It's just we could just go all day. But it was fun. So one of the funny things I noted that was not on the depth chart, obviously, we did not see poor Tanner Morgan. You got to pour out some liquor for him. Number 5, he's just here. He's
gotten some snaps, though. Chris Oladokin did not get any snaps last year.
But that's not saying much.
I know.
Chris Oladokin, at that point, was right behind Kenny Pickett.
True.
Yeah, so
then
it's like, all right.
It was the first official depth chart, as we'll call it, heading into week 1 is where Kenny Pickett became the backup.
Yes,
that depth chart created a lot of buzz.
It did create a lot of buzz.
Because we knew that meant something.
Yeah, we knew that he was starting to make the run at the lead position. And, Mitch started out the season, but like you said, you saw how you finish it, right? It all matters at the photo finish, and Kenny Pickett pulled away and showed a lot of growth as a young guy in year 1. Another guy not on the list, Rodney Williams, who's also had some splashes. I felt like he's had a nice resurgence from last year to this year, nicknamed Hot Rod, because he is a very fast tight end. And, in fact, in Friday Night Lights had a lovely wheel route from the seam and took it yard. Nobody could stop him. So, I mean, if you could see those splashy, flashy plays, that tight end room is very hotly contested because you do have Pat Freiermuth, not worried about that. Connor Hayward, not worried about that. Darnell Washington, unless something catastrophic happens, not worried about that either. It'll be Zach Gentry and Rodney Williams that will be duking it out, really, for that last spot.
All right, let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. We'll look at the front 7 first. Out of respect to Max, we'll stick with the linemen, Lineman
love, but gut love.
Again, no surprises, but I do think that inside linebacker position, we stressed it, I feel like every day, every week, just how much the turnover has been, the changes have been, even the addition of Quan Alexander in the middle of camp.
Yes.
It's just a completely new group, and I think that's, at least for me, one of the positions on the defensive side of the ball that I can't wait to see in a game, especially knowing that you have to be green dot capable. You need somebody who's going to be able to help out, because we know TJ Watt does not like wearing the green dot. I think Minka's not a fan of it either, and that's the position that's the quarterback of your defense.
Yeah, you're supposed to wear the green dot. So Cole Holcomb is my most likely suspect for that green dot. Landon Roberts, let him blow things up and let him be the dynamite man. And then on the second squad unit, I think Quan Alexander's that guy, because Mark Robinson, see ball, hit ball type of mentality. That top four is going to be fun to see how they rotate them in and out, because I think all four of them are valuable to getting the job done on the inside. And I would say the biggest upgrade in this team dynamic from last year to this year is that group, because a lot more athleticism has entered into that group and not sacrificing experience when you bring in a Quan, Cole, and a Landon into this. Two guys who've been captains. Quan has been in this league for a while, and so it's going to be really interesting. And Mark Robinson is the young pup just taking up all of that information. The other one I do want to point out from that initial chart on the D-line, Keanu Benton starting on the third team, Brandon Fehoko in front of him. Obviously more experience with Fehoko, but I expect that to be one of the positions that shifts from one week to the next, because I think Keanu Benton will be pushing more for Montrevious' position at the starting nose than being back there so long. But he is a young guy, so we do rank this by seniority more often than not at the first initial depth chart. And as we see there, the D lineman getting after it, but 95 is definitely somebody to note.
DeMarvin Leal's been dealing with a few injuries, but he's another guy who was thrown into the fire last year, played probably a little bit out of his comfort zone, I think is fair to say.
Yeah.
And now being able to, have the whole first year under his belt as he moves into this camp. And as you said, even, Isaiah Loudermilk is still there, different guys who are fighting for jobs and position battles.
And those two are going to be neck and neck, because I noticed last week with Leal being out, did you notice Isaiah Loudermilk doing a lot more two-point stuff?
Low on the outside.
Seems like a lot of what 98 was doing before he got injured. So I think we will see the competition really come down to those two and who can show the most growth and versatility when we get down to the point of final cuts and everything. I think it comes down between 92 and 98, really fighting for a spot.
Position flexibility, Coach Tomlin preaches it all the time. The more you can do is one of those sayings you'll hear around these parts. And similar to how we talked about Kendrick Green at the tail end of last week and getting a chance, to play fullback.
Yeah, so you want to see the versatility of guys, because it matters when you're only getting to dress 45 guys. Now we'll get to dress 47 this year with the 2 emergency spots because of the whole San Francisco kerfluffle.
Yeah.
But how you stack up and how you perform in hotly contested room. The D-line has a lot of great depth. I would say there's about 8 guys I would trust on that defensive line to play any given snap for me. Tight end room, we've got guys for days. Pick your poison. Build a tight end, as I like to call it. You've got all the different body types in that room. Wide receiver, we've got all the body types in that room, and there's a lot of good play, but you can only keep about 6 of those guys maximum, and I think there's more than 6 in that room. And then offensive line has some really good depth this year. Oh, what a difference a year makes for a lot of these positions. Bringing in 2 quality free agents again, like they did the year before with Mason Cole and James Daniels, bringing in Suamalo and also Nate Herbig. So there's a lot of turnover, 52 new guys. So, and all the competition has been really great, and I haven't seen a slouch or a layoff or felt like, oh, there's a position I feel thin at. Secondary looks deep. There's going to be a lot of competition there. And then also, even at that nickel slot position, I think it's going to be a fantastic competition.
I asked you earlier about Kenny Pickett. What do you do with him during the preseason games, being the young guy, but only first full year as a starter? Are you bubble wrapping number 90 and 97 here?
Absolutely. What do they have to prove? I'm bubble wrapping 56 as well.
Fair.
14 sacks and a new contract? No, I need that week 1. I need that for San Francisco. I want to see if Brock Purdy or the other boy, I can't even think of his name, Mr. One Shot Wonder. Yeah, anyways. Deuce Lance after he's done with us. But I want to see which one's going to come out of the fire, and you're going to have to deal with those 2 guys off the edge. Yes, you got a Nick Bosa, but we'll see your Bosa and raise you Watt and Highsmith, and then also throw in an angry caveman in Cam Hayward.
Plus, I mean, you want to see Nick Herbig. I just think, he's flashed a camp without pads. He's flashed with pads. And he's an interesting draft pick for the Steelers. And I just think, these Wisconsin guys, there's something about them.
Can't miss, apparently. Can't miss
right.
Wisconsin on the defensive
I want to
side.
see him in some live game action.
Well, I want to see him. And also, I want to see David Perales. He's a guy we don't really talk about. He's the third string behind Herbig, number 40. I want to see Perales because I think he's done some good things as a rookie. We kind of get enamored with the higher draft picks, but he has been solid. And I know what Marcus Golden is.
Right.
Yeah, that's Junkyard Dog, man. I've covered him since he's been with the Cardinals.
Right.
And I've seen him, so I know what he offers and the veteran leadership that he brings at that second string position. But it's really going to matter more so when you're looking at the young depth. How does that young depth translate? So to see Perales, to see Herbig in those positions is really going to be important.
All right, let's continue the last part of our depth chart looking at the secondary. We went through the list of injuries that guys have been dealing with throughout camp. A lot of the safeties obviously have had injuries, but here's where things shake out. And again, no crazy surprises, but I do think when you look at it like this, it's a James Pierre, guys like that who have contributed to the team before. Elijah Riley, it's what can they show you when you step into the stadium and go under the lights, as Coach Tomlin says?
Yeah, make sure the lights aren't too bright. You have to handle it how we handle it on this set here, Missy. We got a lot of bright lights.
A lot of bright lights.
We are undeterred in this set with all these lights. But I think one of the interesting things, DeMonte Casey, Keon O'Neal, both slated as a starter for the strong safety position.
Yep.
And I think it's an orb situation. So now a lot of pressure, Trey Norwood, Miles Killebrew, because those two guys are also core 4 special teams guys. So you're going to have to make room somewhere. And really the dark horse, I really like number 17, Trenton Thompson. I know he came in with a Corey Trice injury, but number 17 has been popping on the film too. He's showing a tenacity and a want to as well. So that's going to be really fun to watch. Another interesting thing to note, Patrick Peterson slotted at the right cornerback position. I have to believe the guy behind him, the young rook, if he can show that progress, now you slide Patrick Peterson down to that nickel competition, which is already chock full of challenges because Chandon Sullivan, Elijah Riley, who we mentioned, and Duke Dawson have all been getting an equal crack at it. And Patrick Peterson, I feel, if Joey can take that spot, Lil Peasy Jr. can take that spot, I believe you could slide in Patrick Peterson at the nickel position. And now that's a scary front seven and with a tenacious back half of that defense. So I'm really excited for that competition in the secondary. It's going to be really good.
What would Joey Porter Jr. need to show you to make that move feeling comfortable for week 1?
Show him that the task isn't too big. Whoever he gets assigned to, that guy does not get targeted as much. And if he does, he gets denied more than he gets accepted. I need him to be like a guy wearing white shoes going into the nightclub. Sorry, son, no force is allowed in this nightclub. You got to put on some casual sneakers. And that's what I want to see. No matter how bad a play might be, say he does get beat, and he should get beat, just for the learning purposes of knowing how to overcome and show resiliency, but not backing down from the competition, not looking lost out there in the coverage. All of those things are what's going to determine it. And you have to think Patrick Peterson is going to be in his ear the entire time about that process, because that's another guy. That's 50-50. I don't know if he plays in this game because Patrick Peterson, how many preseason games, how many Pro Bowls, how many big matchups has he had?
Right.
I don't think he needs preseason, so I think Joey is going to get a crack at whatever that starting lineup is for the Bucs. He's going to get their best receiver right out the gate, just so he can prove himself and go against that. Whether it is Mike Evans or Chris Godwin or whoever else is on that roster, whoever he lines up against, he has to make sure they have a bad day and he has a good day.
Well, and I think it's, how methodical Coach Tomlin is even at practice. There's days where that's just get the day off because he wants to see the younger guys getting more reps. It's, as he says, it's not always about the guy not practicing. It's about who is getting a chance. And we've just seen that so much. So as you said, it's going to be the same thing when it comes game time, and there's 3 games.
Yes, there is. And nobody's getting cut until after that 3rd game. So a lot of opportunity to prove yourself, to show your endurance and your durability throughout these preseason games to help it make it a tough a decision as possible as you grind down to that 53-man roster, which we know 3 of those spots are reserved for our specialists. I know we don't talk about them, but we love all of you. We love you,
Specialists are
Bozzy.
people too, as Pat
They are-
McAfee says.
Exactly. Specialists are people too. So Bozzy, Presley, and Kuntz, love you guys. But for the 50 other positions that you have to worry about, really 47 through 50 are the ones where that's the show me special team squad. Those are the tweeners right on the cusp. Who has the better day more consistently as we grade out the average of the 3 games?
Coach Salmon was asked, about a possible punting competition, especially on Sunday. What did you see from that? And in your eyes, is there a competition?
I really don't think there's a competition. I mean, Presley, when he's on, there is not a better punter for pinpointing accuracy. The coffin corner he dropped in Atlanta last year was a thing of beauty. I feel like Mozart or Beethoven would have written a symphony based off of that one play. But like you said, when he's off, it is a little bit off. So I think wanting to see the growth and the consistency for Presley is probably Coach Tomlin trying to create that challenge in the specialist group just because you haven't had a lot of turnover over the years. So manufacturing one of those things. But I fully and wholeheartedly expect Presley Harvin to put his best foot forward, literally, as a punter and seal that job.
So many puns today. I like it.
Yeah.
We're in preseason form, I guess.
We are. We are in mid-season form of the preseason.
What do you remember about your first preseason action?
Oh, my gosh. Detroit, Ford Field, 2004. I was going up against James Hall, who longtime defensive end, played a couple different places, played in Detroit, played in St. Louis, and I saw him in both of those places. But my very first play, we had a slide protection going to the left, and I was in at left tackle. And I don't even remember it. It was a blur. I just know I stepped under myself, I pivoted, I turned, and I just ran for dear life and yelled, "Watch out!" to a young Ben Roethlisberger who was taking the second and third string snaps in the game.
It's getting a little windy up here.
It's very windy.
On the hill, I'm curious to see once we get a chance to go down to the hill what that's like as well. Because, adversity, inclement weather, all things that Coach Tomlin likes. I remember being down in Jacksonville last year for one of the preseason games, and
so hot.
it was muggy and swampy and hot, and he loved everything about it. He got off the bus and told me how excited he was that this is the weather his team had to play
wearing
in.
all black, the nerve. Like, you don't do that in Florida if you love your life. I'm a Florida boy, and I would never think to wear all black. Like, that's when you know you're a cool coach, that not even a heat stroke variability can undeter you from setting a mindset and a tempo. But, yeah, I was sweating bullets. I had about 3 or 4 towels I stole from the training staff as I was on the sidelines because it felt like I was getting out of a shower like every 15 minutes because of that heat. But that you get that on big jobs like this, as the late great Mike Webster would say, and the great American poet Craig Wolfley would also reiterate. You deal with that. Like we're not a climate controlled job for all intents and purposes. This game got started in the yards at Harvard, right? I mean, so you don't what weather, unless there's a lightning bolt, because we have metal on our bodies as players.
Don't manifest that.
That's the only thing that's I'm saying that's the only thing that stops it.
Yes.
Other than that, the game will go on. Next rep. That's how this game is played. So Coach Tomlin wants to make sure that guys understand the base core principle and the Steeler way is the next rep matters. Get to the next rep. Stop worrying about the previous rep.
What is the mindset for the young guys who have never seen the game action before at this level? It's not the game planning as we said, but it's still a chance to prove yourself.
Listen, it's make sure the moment's not too big and understand, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Everybody is going to have butterflies. I guarantee you there are veterans in this league. For the 10 years I played in the NFL, I had butterflies before every game. If you don't have butterflies, I'm worried a little bit about you.
Okay.
And I hope that you're just lying to me when you tell me you don't have butterflies, that you really do. But that nervousness and that anxiety, can you bottle it and can you focus it? That's what coaches are looking for young guys. Don't let the moment get too big and then it's just nervous, inefficient energy. Focalize that energy and make sure that you bring it out on every play, every opportunity, and every snap that you get in the game. Let that nervousness go out with hitting a guy in the mouth, because that's really what it comes down to. You have to be able to harness that energy. And I think for a lot of these young guys, when you see them, when we interview them, there's a different type of decorum. I think they understand that more often than not, at least from the offensive guys I've spoken to. You hear Darnell Washington talk, you hear Broderick Jones talk, and they come from a lot of success at Georgia. They ain't lost a game in a very long time, and they have 2 national championships to prove that. But this is a different level. Nobody cares about your stars. Nobody cares about your rings. From yesteryear, NFL championships and NFL experience is what matters.
They do have that Georgia media training, though. I just think they're not too high, they're not too low when they speak to the media, and they truly, I feel like this entire rookie class just is humble in the sense, but wanting to work and just learn from guys, and you're not like, oh, that guy might be a problem. You're not feeling that vibe from these guys, and they're grinding, and that's exactly what you want out of that group.
Let the process be the process. Don't start predicting in the future. You're not Nostradamus. Handle every day, everything in front of you, and don't get too far ahead. Focus on one thing every day and get better at that.
All right, well, they are done with warm-ups here in individuals. They're going to head over to 7 shots and then goal line to finish the day. Hopefully that stays.
Yes.
We know Max will be down there in the action, probably with Wolf. That's going to do it for us here on Training Camp Live, presented by FedEx. Make sure you join us for the wrap-up show after practice. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.